Hello. One of my great joys of the past few years is reading the novels of Wilkie Collins for the first time. The Woman in White, the Moonstone, these classic mysteries which really set the template for the golden age of detective fiction, where there is a crime, there is a body, there are a number of suspects, and there is a detective who is trying to crack the case. And all of these elements are incorporated into Joyce Carol Oates' great big new page-turner, Fox, which is also set in contemporary America in 2013 in New Jersey. And this story begins in a very playful way where we are inside the consciousness of a dog called Princess Di, who is sniffing around a hiking trail alongside a lake and discovers a body. And the question of who this body is and what occurred at this scene runs throughout the story. And we are introduced to a number of different characters from the local area and who are connected to this individual, and a detective named Detective Zwender who's interviewing all of these people. And it's very effective as a mystery story in that I was constantly wondering, well, who is it? Oh, I think it's this person. But then as more information is revealed, I'm like, oh, actually, no, maybe it's this person. And I was really gripped, wondering what actually happened and wanted to know the resolution. And there is a resolution, and I'm not going to give any spoilers, obviously, but it was a surprise to me. And I thought it was really interesting where she takes the story, and it's very satisfying in that way. But I think it also works on a number of different levels because the body which is discovered is presumed to be a local middle school teacher at a private school named Francis Fox, who is a lauded poet. He's a much beloved individual, but he's also a serial pedophile. And how Oates gets into his character, she really brings us close into his psychology because he is a very charismatic individual, and he convinces a lot of people around him to love him. And by following his consciousness so closely, his point of view and the way he sees the world, we see how he is able to manipulate people so much, but also how he commits the most monstrous acts. And so the investigation, as well as being wondering who this body is and what actually occurred at this scene, the investigation is partly into how could this man who commits such monstrous acts have been allowed to get away with it for so long, because there are some indications, but because he charms the people around him so much that so many people become his enablers and defend him even when evidence is brought up against him. And how she does this, because this is based off from a real case and something which actually occurred. And when something like this happens, it feels like such a shock, and partly because not just because of the absolutely evil acts which occur, but also how is this allowed to occur? How is a teacher given access to so many adolescents to perform these actions? And this question is explored in such an in-depth way throughout Oates' story. And of course, it's incredibly disturbing, but I think part of the way that Oates kind of softens the blow for the reader of being so close to this character of odious character Francis Fox is that because a body is discovered in the very beginning, which is presumed to be Francis Fox, that we can kind of take comfort and also want to see that he will come to justice in some way and in some form. And that, I think, kind of allowed me to be so uncomfortably close to this absolutely horrible character. And it's a device which Oates has used before in other of her recent fiction, of both her novel Butcher as well, which involves a doctor at a psychiatric hospital who performs horrific experiments on the bodies of women. And this doctor is a kind of composite of a number of doctors from the 19th century that conducted experiments like this on women and girls. And but the novel begins with a prologue where this doctor is being brought to justice. And so I think this sense of justice, and that that there will be retribution for what has occurred, and that the individual will be held account to it, makes it I don't want to say makes it easier, but yeah, kind of softens the reader to explore the consciousness of this character, and to really see how and why he functions, because obviously it's also horrific reading about a character like this and wondering, well, who can I really trust? That someone that inspired so much love from so many people in his local area turned out to have committed so many monstrous acts, and to have really done the worst thing possible. And it is really heartbreaking seeing the effects of his actions on girls in the local area, of girls who start to self-harm and become suicidal, and who are so devoted to him, even though he has been abusing him. And similarly, other adults who have been charmed by him and taken in by him because he is such a charismatic individual. And really how this happened and why it happened, and she explores this in a way which is so insightful and gives such a different perspective than just reading about a count like this in a news story, and so is really exploring this dark side of contemporary America in this way. And I think this tale also functions on a level of asking a larger question about the people that we value and revere in society, and those that we dismiss and overlook. Because Detective Zwender, he is a very self-contained individual. He's divorced. He has a number of different medical problems, and he's really devoted to his job. And there's a somber passage where he reflects how he will probably be forgotten, and that he ought to buy his own burial plot, because when he dies, nobody else may do that for them, which is an incredibly heartbreaking thing to read about. But then conversely, Francis Fox is so revered as an individual, and celebrated and loved, even though he committed so many monstrous acts. And how she draws that contrast and asks this larger question about the people that we value in society, I think is really worth asking and thinking about and contemplating. And there's also a number of different characters that are portrayed in such a sympathetic and moving way. There is a girl who goes through puberty at a very young age, and all of the problems that this causes for her. There's a very well-meaning librarian who just wants to inspire a love of reading in other in children, but also becomes a close familiar to Frances Fox and the way she's drawn in this way. There's a young man named Demetrius who has learning difficulties, and he left school early, and so he's not academic at all. He's a Christian. He helps his father out at his job because his father has a lot of medical issues. But he's just a lovely individual, but one who seems to have kind of fallen through the cracks in society. And so she creates this large cast of characters and some characters that are not so sympathetic and who are much more complicated and difficult. And but she shows them all in a well-rounded way that I came to care for so many of these characters, and it really added to the propulsion of the story, where I wondered what actually happened and what actually occurred. And so I think it's so clever in many different ways, and I found it gripping all the way through. And there's also another kind of twist and surprise towards the end of the book, in the very last section, which again I won't reveal any spoilers, but is a kind of metafictional element that she added to the story that I found so surprising and delightful. And so yes, this is a very chilling book. I'm not going to paint it in a rosy way. This is not a cozy crime novel at all. It is in some sections incredibly disturbing and challenging to read in this way, but it is also, I think, so insightful, and the way she follows the consciousness of a number of different characters to see their points of view and then to give a different perspective on them and their stories, and the larger story overall builds up to something really special. So yes, this is a great big novel. I mean, I think probably some sections of it could have been edited down a bit, and there are some little elements that get a bit repetitious and certain details that are repeated, but also there's so much imagery in this book that builds to an overall picture and feeling and mood for the story. There's this very chilling thing in the very beginning where we're seeing a scene through a number of different characters' perspective, and we're aware of these turkey vultures that are circling around overhead, which make this very ominous image, and also the way that Edgar Allan Poe is incorporated into the story, not just his writing and the mood of his writing, but also elements of his life as well that are kind of brought into the story and questioned in a certain way, and also he plays another larger part in the story, which I'm not going to reveal, but which is such a pleasure, and so this was a fantastic read, a really immersive story. And if you've read this book, I'd love to know what you think about it, or if you're interested in reading it now, please let me know about that in the comments below, or if you want to talk about any other Joyce Carol Oates fiction, because you know I am a JCO super fan, so always happy to discuss her work and her writing. But I hope you're doing well and reading good things, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.